The ninth fighter is Jun Tena. She will smash our heart under the title of How to Talk to the World. How to Talk to the World. Jun Tena, please come to the battlefield.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony, and hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
I start my speech now. I very pacey, my leg shaking, But don't worry, my speech very simple, so don't play or sleep, Okay, now what is your impression of my speech so far? Or my accent? Did you manage to catch my words? Or did you get confused of what I was saying? Some of you might have thought that I was talking nonsense or I was too nervous to speak properly. But for me, I was speaking naturally. I was speaking English with a slight accent. Have you ever heard the word Singlish before? It's a combination word of Singapore and English, like the kind of English I spoke in the beginning. And this type of phenomenon is not limited to Singapore. For example, Chinglish is Chinese English. Hindish is Indian English. Manglish is Malaysian English. Well, let me tell you a few more about those unique English around the world. Namely, Alavish, Banglish, Bonglish, Danglish, Finglish, Junglish, Greeklish, Hunglish, Italish, Junglish, Janglish, Ponglish, Punglish, Langlish, Spanglish, Spanglish, English, Spanglish, and Yanglish. And each of them, of course, has some differences influenced by its nation domestic language and cultures. For example, at the beginning, I used the Singlish term play. This comes from repeating an expression which means leader in Chinese, since there are many Chinese speakers in Singapore. But their uniqueness are sometimes hardly understood by others from different countries or cultures due to the differences of their accent, pronunciations, and grammars. I assume when anyone comes up on a stage like this, the audience, like you, will probably expect the speaker to speak either American English or British English, and some of you might not try to understand the other abnormal English. But are you sure that we have to use English like American or British way in every situation when we meet foreigners? On the other half of this speech, let me explain to you how people communicate in English in the workday and give you a piece of advice to have better communication skills when you speak to foreigners. The British linguist Professor David Crystal stated that among 2 billion English speakers around the world, only 12% of the English speakers are actually native, and the rest are speaking English as their second or third or even fourth language. It is also said that when English communication takes place, at around 96% of the time, it takes place with at least one non-native speaker of English, which means the possibility of talking to someone who speaks English, like I did in the beginning of this speech, is much higher. Since there are many types of Englishes, miscommunications is inevitable when we speak with foreigners. That is why it is essential to understand that there are various kinds of English in the world. When you don't get what the other person is saying, don't just think their English is broken. Switch your mind and try to understand the speaker's cultures and background. And this advice is especially important to most of us here today, Japanese people. The reason is that Japanese education system has so far pressured students to speak in American English. In fact, most of the English educational tools in Japanese schools are based on American cultures, and only 1/7 of them do mention about non-native cultures or their versions of English. This probably creates a preconceived notion that any other English except American English is wrong. I was one of the victims of this Japanese education system. I used to live in Singapore and I had Singlish accent, but when I came back to Japan, I was told that my English was wrong or weird from my friends. After that, I tried hard to lose my Singlish accent and try to speak like how Japanese people expect English to be. But one day, when I had a chance to go to a global camp where people from many parts of the world gather, I once again realized that there are many kinds of English in the world, and nothing is wrong. Even if you acquire a perfect American English skill, there is no point if you don't try to understand others who speak differently. Ladies and gentlemen, if you understand what am I trying to say so far, that means you're ready. It's the time to remove the bias towards unfamiliar English that you haven't heard before, and try to understand other kinds of English to overcome miscommunications and get ready to talk to the world. I'm now closing my speech with Singlish again. So please change your mind, please switch your mind and try to learn other kinds of English. And this time, if you know that Chinese put ma at the end of the question, and makan means eat in Malaysia, you will also realize that Singapore is a multiracial nation where people live together by respecting each other's cultures by using Singlish. Thank you for listening to my speech. I know Singlish have different accent, but this is why Singlish is interesting, right? You like my speech, Mom? You like to later come and talk to me when we makan at the reception, okay?